On everyone. So, according to Woj, Klay Thompson's Warriors have made absolutely no progress in contract talks. So, I'm told that there has been absolutely no progress on Klay Thompson's extension in Golden State. They are both still apart on years and money, and there's a very real possibility that Klay Thompson goes into free agency next summer without a deal. Now, a couple things. One, it's very likely the Warriors kind of ride this year out and see how Klay Thompson performs. Does he have injury issues? Is he, kind of a shell of himself, or is he able to kind of continue to be a real productive player this year? He's coming off of a decent season, right? But he's not the same guy he once was, right? But the issue with these legacy guys for the Warriors, right? It's a fine line. It's very difficult because, one, from a player standpoint, they want to make as much money as they possibly can, which absolutely go get your bag. But there's also this sense of, entitlement for what they achieved. And they should have that, right? Klay Thompson's looking at it as like, hey, I've brought in championships, a dynasty. I was a huge integral part in that. Right? I was the other half of the Splash Brothers, right? So I should be paid accordingly. And from an organizational standpoint, it's a lot of that push and pull as well, right? Because there is that sense of like, you want to take care of the guy, you want to take care of the players. He's been with the organization so long, and you've built this love for these players, right? It's one of the reasons why Bob Myers ends up leaving, right? Because he didn't want to have to make these tough calls, which the Warriors are now getting to, right? And we saw, like with Draymond, he could go into free agency. Free agency happens and immediately signs a new deal. That very likely will be the same case with Klay Thompson, right? It's very likely that, hey, we'll ride it out. We'll go into the summer. We'll have those conversations again in the summer. And then, opening of free agency, boom, here's the new contract. Klay Thompson's re-signed. There is. But I've talked about this before. It's getting to the point where the Warriors are going to have to make that tough call. Do you really want to sign Klay Thompson to, a 4-year max, right? As Woj said, they're apart on the years and the money. So there's going to have to be a compromise one way or another. Does Klay Thompson maybe get a max for like 2 years? And then we'll pick it up and see where that goes. But from Klay, he's probably looking at it as like, I don't want to do that because who knows where I am in 2 years, right? So he wants that security. So is he willing to take a 4-year deal for less money? Right? Are the Warriors willing to do that? Do the Warriors really want to have, a 37-year-old Klay Thompson who already has a bunch of injury issues, who already is not the same guy he once was? I believe with his shooting ability and how good he is shooting the basketball, he could be a valuable player. He could be, a Ray Allen on Miami for a team, whether that's the Warriors or somebody else. But at some point, the Warriors are going to have to start making these tough calls. And I personally believe that they need to move off of Klay Thompson. That's just my personal thought. I'm sure that there are many Warrior fans that feel otherwise, but Klay Thompson is the one guy that you could use to kind of retool this roster, right? Like Draymond is arguably the second most important piece because of what he does for that team, both on the court and behind the scenes. He's also that defensive anchor. He's that tough guy for them. He's the leader in many ways. And Klay Thompson is kind of like that add-on, right? And Kuminga's starting to come into his zone. You still have Andrew Wiggins, right? Can you turn Klay Thompson into like a center, like a good center and like a quality rotation piece? Because if you could do that, I think if you're the Warriors, you got to. And the problem is you have to do it this year because you don't want to lose him in free agency for nothing. But also, do the Warriors want to be that team that trades Klay Thompson? That's where the dilemma lies. But I think it's your job as the organization to make those tough calls. And if the Warriors are better for it, the fans will be okay. The problem is if you trade Klay Thompson and you're worse or not really better. And then you're kind of just this like, 6 seed throughout the course of Steph's remainder of his career. And now fans are upset because they're like, you traded Klay Thompson to basically be where we would be with Klay Thompson. We might as well have kept Klay, right? But I think if you can get, and this is just like a name for namesake, right? But can you go, say Indiana isn't doing too well, right? Can you go and get somebody like a Miles Turner and then maybe another piece to add to this unit, right? Imagine a starting five of like Steph, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond Green, and then Miles Turner. Now you got size, you got shooting, you got defense, you got versatility, you got everything you could want as far as now kind of retooling this roster and kind of helping Steph in his longevity. I think that would be a much better approach for the Warriors, right? Or even somebody like, the Pelicans want to move off of Valanciunas, right? Can you go get Valanciunas and another piece or two from the Pelicans, right? Maybe the Pelicans are looking at it as like, oh man, like if we could turn Valanciunas and, 2 or 3 guys into Klay Thompson, then let's go do that, right? And if you're the Warriors, you're looking at it as, okay, well, we got a sizable, versatile center. We got, you could go with the same unit that I talked about, just instead of Miles Turner, you have Valanciunas, but now maybe the Warriors are deeper as a unit. Again, just throwing names out there. I'm not saying that necessarily they will get either of those guys or they can get either of those guys, but if you can do something like that, to where you're going to get a reasonable return that makes sense, that kind of gives you a new look of the Warriors, a new sort of identity, and and can improve the roster in the same scope. Like, I think that's the best approach, because the issue is yes, Klay Thompson, I fully believe wants to stay there, and I fully believe will end up staying there, because I don't think the Warriors are going to make the tough call, but I do think it's best for the Warriors, because, like, what other guy is going to get you the assets? Like, are you really going to trade Kuminga and Moody and all that stuff? Probably not. And you're not going to get, because they don't make the money, you're not going to get a sizable enough return to where it makes sense for you, rather than keeping those guys and them kind of being your building blocks for the future. Draymond Green isn't going to get you that huge return. You're never trading Steph. So it's like, who else are you doing? Like, Andrew Wiggins isn't going to yield you that type of return. So it literally falls on Klay Thompson. So if the Warriors, now look, if the Warriors are great, like let's say the Warriors are like a top 3 seed this year, right? And they're really good and things are clicking, and Kuminga does take that step this year for them, and he's great off the bench for them. And it looks like they can they're in a position to maybe win that championship one last time, one last run. Then I think you stay there. But if the Warriors are struggling and they're like, the 6 seed and they're scratching and clawing to avoid the play-in, I really think come the trade deadline, you at least explore Klay Thompson trades, right? Like, just see what's out there. You might get a team that looks at it right now and is in like that desperation mode, or they think they're a piece away, right? Like, and maybe you can go and get a piece or two from a team that you might have not have been able to get that kind of value otherwise, but because they look at it as like, man, Klay Thompson could be that leader that comes in and takes us over the top, maybe that ends up happening, right? Maybe that's the play. Maybe that's the move that ends up working in your favor. Like maybe one of these teams, I don't know, like, one of these teams end up turning around or whatever, or, comes out of left field and is all of a sudden really good. Right? Like maybe the Knicks are like, hey, we'll basically, let's go get Klay and add him to this roster. We'll give you basically whatever you want, not named Jalen Brunson. And you can go get a Robinson and a Quickly and whatever. Now you got some nice young pieces that you could add to this roster that could maybe help now and for the future of the team. Again, I think that's the approach they need to take, because the last thing you want is to lose Klay. And I wouldn't be shocked if Klay left. Like, I wouldn't. Like, if Klay doesn't get the money in the years that he wants, and a team is willing to offer that, then I absolutely could see that. And not just that, there's probably teams that would offer him that just for the sake of getting him off of the Warriors. And there are going to be some teams like the Sixers at the end of this year may have enough money to go and acquire Klay Thompson, right? The Clippers can kind of work some stuff out to maybe go try to acquire Klay Thompson because they have a bunch of expiring contracts, right? And they don't have to extend Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, or maybe they work it out to where they can kind of piece together enough money to maybe give Klay something, right? Like, I don't know. It's just throwing out teams that come to mind, or maybe even one of these like younger team. Maybe the Pacers are like, hey, or the Spurs, right? Let's get Klay with Victor, right, and kind of have him kind of be that older guy that can kind of bring some balance to the locker room or something, or whatever, right? I just think that it's very likely we're seeing the end of Klay in Golden State, and I think that that's one of the reasons why they made the change with the GM and stuff to kind of get Dunleavy in there to basically make the hard call. And the question is he going to make the hard call? But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think that this could potentially be the end of Klay Thompson? This could be the last year we see him in a Warriors jersey. Do you think that they should trade him? Right? Like, yeah, you go kind of do a retool, whatever. I'm not saying trade him right this second or anything. Like, let things unfold. You are running the risk of, like, if he gets hurt, now you're stuck, right? Like, that could be a problem. But I think you got to be patient, right? Get to the trade deadline. Kind of evaluate where are you as far as like the standing goes and team-wise, and then what is out there and what is available. I would at least field offers, right? Even if you are, like, let's say you're like the 4th or 5th seed and you're kind of middle of the pack, I would still at least listen to Klay Thompson offers, right? It doesn't hurt to just have the conversation, right? And then see, because what if you do have a team that is willing to heavily overpay and you can get a bunch of draft picks and a bunch of players and stuff like that, and then maybe even use that stuff to flip into another star to kind of replace Klay. Just a thought. But anyway, again, love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Let me know down in the comments.